Yeah. Hello everyone. Welcome to the session 2 of Eloquence workshop by Toastmasters. In today's session, we'll be discussing about basics of public speaking and impromptu speaking. I hope you had fun in the first session, and I expect everybody to be as interactive as they were in the first session today as well. So I would like to introduce today's trainers. They are Toastmaster Hanan and Toastmaster Nitin. To speak about them a little, Toastmaster Nitin was division level winner for the international speech contest, and also he came top 3 in chair for levity division level competition. And about Toastmaster Hanan, she was the vice president education in the last year, and also won a membership excellence award for it as well. And she's also the program quality leader for the area team. Yeah, and I feel like they are very qualified as trainers for you to take the session. So I provide the platform to them. Go ahead, guys.
Hey guys, how all of you are doing? Right, awesome seeing all of you. Right, and very excited for the session. How we are going to proceed. And so me and Hanan, we both will be the trainers for today's session, as Vignesh told. So we'll be splitting the session itself into 2 parts, right? So today we're going to talk about content, right? So content is something that we see every single day, right? We consume in our mobile phones, we listen to lectures from our professors, some of the content which you may not like that much, right? Which are not very attention capturing, right? So content is something which we find everywhere, right? So this workshop today is going to help us understand how do we cultivate content, right? From ideation to execution, right? How do we go about it in a step-by-step method, right? So I would be discussing more on the initial part of how do you ideate, right? And how do you form the basic skeleton for your content. And Hanan would be discussing more about the execution part of it, right? In the second half of the segment. So all ready? Shall we begin?
Yeah.
I need a yes. I need a thumbs up, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So how many of you have seen these movies, right? Or any of have you seen the movie Tare Zameen Par?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Who do you think is the hero of this film?
The child.
The child. Okay. In Pursuit of Happiness, who do you think is the hero of this film?
Will Smith.
Will Smith himself.
And in the Tamil movie Kadasi Vivasai, for the people who have seen, who do you think is the hero of the film?
The old man.
Awesome. Now, what is common in these movies? Right? What is one thing which
They
stands out in all of
overcome
these
their
movies?
fears and basically.
Awesome. Okay. Anyone else?
I mean, no matter how many times they're let down, they stand back up on your feet again and fight back until
Awesome.
they get success.
Great. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So the one that please go ahead. Yes.
Is it that they have like one supporting character who helps them like reach there?
Okay. Right. So I think one thing we all can agree in these 3 films is that they had very solid content. Agreed?
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Even if we go about changing the casting, right, of these films would be able to deliver the message or communicate the message to the audiences. Agreed?
Yes.
Right? So the 3 within the three films, the common thing is they have very solid content and very good writing, right? They have very defined characters, right? They have a very good plot, right? Around which they have this entire world where you can, for example, in Pursuit of Happiness, right? You go about understanding the life of Chris Gardner, right? So they have very
Yeah.
defined characters and very clear plot, right? So through this, we can easily understand how important content is for each of these movies, right? So in this workshop, we would be specifically focusing on a few points, right? Not a lot of them. One, why public speaking, right? Because we are in a forum, Toastmasters, where we improve both communication and leadership, right? And in both of these instances, we require public speaking. The second is why content is viral or vital for the entire scenario, and how we can go about creating a framework to bring out the best content. And finally, we would have a few videos, right, where we would be discussing and going about to understand how we can create content. And finally, a few bullet points and a question and answer session. Cool. So we'll go to the first part of the workshop. We try to understand why do we speak, right? What is the reason? Again, open to discussion. I would like to understand what is your answer to this question. Why do we speak?
To convey a message.
To
Okay.
to express our feelings.
To communicate ideas.
Great. Okay, awesome. What else?
To get what we want.
Okay, okay. This is a very different approach. Great, okay. Great. So why do we speak? Now the next question is, where do we speak?
Everywhere.
Right, okay. So
when we need something.
Okay. Cool.
When you have to
Okay.
convey our emotions.
Okay.
Where you need to get someone to support you.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. So let's maybe discuss. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yes. Was someone answering? Cool. Okay. I'll assume as a no. So why do we speak? In a single sentence, it would be to convey our thoughts and ideas, right? This could be all of the answers that you have brought in, right? All of the amazing answers. We can maybe sum it up in a single line to convey our thoughts and ideas. Where do we speak? As one of the members told, I think everywhere, right? I think something which we generally find is at home, right? At college, at your society or the place where you're living, at your company, right? So these are some of the places where we speak, right? Now, let us try to go a little bit step above and try to understand to whom do we speak, right? At all these different places where we specified, right? To whom do we speak? For example, at home.
Family members.
Okay, with your family members. At college?
With our friends.
Friends.
Okay, with your
Professors.
friends, your professors. Great. Okay. Great. So, for example, at your company?
To your boss or to your clients.
Co-workers.
Co-workers. Right. Great. And one thing, if you have noticed, do we speak the same way with everyone?
No.
No.
Okay. Why is that so?
No.
We have
Different levels of respect and
Right.
different requirements from them.
Awesome. Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Wonderful answer. Yes. Go ahead.
I think the amount of comfort we have with each kind of person is different. So
Great.
we
Great.
share depending on that.
Very
Our
valid.
relations with them, like family
Right.
members, are too close and intimate to us. Co-workers are another aspect of our life, but not that close.
Wonderful. Wow. Okay. That was a very, very deep answer. I think we need to, I think me and Hanan and all the other Toastmasters need to also learn from a lot from you guys as well. Great. So to whom do we speak is basically knowing our audience, right? Right. So all the answers that you gave, fantastic answers, right? Now, if we need to know our audience, right, let us assume certain parameters, right, in to ensure that whatever we are speaking is very well communicated to them. So what are some of the parameters that you will think, right? Again, open to
Is
you. Yeah.
Can you please repeat this last line?
No worries, no issues. So when you speak to a certain audience, right, what are some of the parameters that you have in your mind, right, before talking to them?
Like it is formal. Respect.
Okay.
the age group
they
of
are
the
Okay. I think one person told the age group. Correct. Right.
We need to be respectful, and we also need to ensure that we convey our message properly without
Awesome.
any confusions on both sides.
Awesome.
Whether they agree or disagree with us in general,
Right.
like whether they're on our side or against.
Got
Make
it.
sure they have our attention. I mean, make sure we have their attention.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So
The purpose
yes.
of speaking, it could be something formal or else informal. That's it.
Great. Great. Okay. So to whom do we speak? I think the first criteria which we are speaking about was the age group, right? When we are speaking to someone, right, one of the first things that we need to understand is the level of information they can process, right? Right. If you're say telling something which they can't comprehend itself, it will be very tough for both sides, right? So the first parameter that we normally look at is the age group, right? To whom are we speaking? Are we speaking to people who are of our age? Or are we speaking to people who are maybe younger than us or elder than us, right? So these are some of the, this is the first parameter that we look at. The second that we generally look at is the educational background, right? So when we are going about speaking in front of an audience, right? For example, we all are engineers, right? To be engineers, right? So if you're going about and speaking something which is very technical and very focused towards engineering, and your audience is a set of people who are chartered accountants, would that even connect? Right? So the second part is knowing what is the educational background, right? How much they can comprehend what we speak, right? The next one is the cultural and the social background, right? So understanding, for example, what some of the participants exactly told, right? The level of comfort that we have, right, with them, the respect, right, that we share, right? So those are some of the things that we need to know before talking to an audience. Also, public speaking is not necessarily something which needs to be done in front of 500 people or 1,000 people. Public speaking can be even one-to-one, right? Even having a conversation with 2 people, 3 people, all of this is public speaking, right? The more the number of audience that we generally have, we try to keep our message, right, or what we want to convey at a very simple manner, right? We want to convey the message to a larger audience. We try to keep the message as simple as possible, right? The next one is your preferred language, right? So here the preferred language for the workshop is English because we all are nearly fluent, right? We are nearly comfortable with conversing in English, right? But this may not be the case when we are conversing with a large audience member in somewhere else, right? For them, it could be Hindi, the preferred language, Tamil, Telugu, right? So understanding what is the preferred language is also a basic criterion in terms of knowing our audience, right? And the final one is the channel, right? Right now, due to the COVID situation, we are right now having this conversation virtual, right? If not, we would have it in a physical platform, right? Maybe a stage, right? Something on that sort. We'll be able to physically interact, right? So this case, channel is also something which is very important, right? So these are some of the broad things that we need to know before conversing with a person or an audience, right? their age group, the education, the cultural and social background, the number of audience members who are present, the preferred language that they are comfortable with, and the channel. Are we clear on this? I would like you guys to unmute yourself if it's possible.
Yes, sure.
Clear. Awesome. Okay. So once we are clear with who our audience is, then why content is vital. How many of you have seen Office?
I have seen.
Great.
I've seen.
Do you remember the scene? Right? So in the office, right, when Michael Scott's boss, right, asks a question, he just rambles on and on, right? And then there is a cut scene to this, right, where he says, sometimes I start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going, right? So why is content vital in any form, right? Be it speech, be it in written form, why content is vital? Again, open to you guys.
To convey the precise information in as much detail as required.
Awesome. Okay, great. Okay.
So that we don't bore the audience.
Right. Right. Okay. Absolutely makes sense. Go ahead. Yes.
To convey the entire message within a particular time frame.
Great. Okay. Nice. Okay. Great answers. So I think all the answers that you've provided, I think we can frame it down to 2 sentences, right? Why content is vital? To capture the attention of our audience. I think one person told it brilliantly, right? The first 30 seconds of either a written form of content or in speech, right, is the period where the audience will try to gather their attention and focus towards us. The first 30 seconds. If you're not able to capture the attention of the audience within the first 30 seconds, then it's more or less that you have lost the audience, right? Or they're not able to understand you, or they don't want to listen to you itself in the first place, right? So first point, to capture the attention of our audience. And the second, I think, which was also told brilliantly, to convey our thoughts in the best possible way, right? So when we have a large number of audience, we try to iterate again, think through which is the best way we can convey our thoughts, right? So these are the 2 key points to understand why content is vital and why we need to focus a lot while we deliver a speech or we write it in the written format, right? So in terms of the content itself, I think we can classify it itself into 2 parts. The first, in terms of speech, is informative speech, right? And the second form or the classification is the inspirational speech, right? Now, what do you think we would be conveying in an informative speech?
Facts.
Facts, correct? Okay.
Explanations about different things.
Right.
Status on some particular topic.
Right. Correct.
Solutions to problems.
Awesome. Okay. Clear. Okay. So I think pretty much summed up once again. Information presented to generate interest in your audience members is an informative speech, right? How do you bring in all the data which you talked about, right? All the theoretical information in an interesting format so that the audience members can be in hold of your attention, right? So that is the key part in informative speech, right? So where do we find such content, right? Informative speeches, where do you find such content?
Classrooms.
Awesome. Yeah. An obvious one. Yes. What else?
Wikipedia.
Internet.
Right. Okay.
Lectures.
Lectures. Right.
News channels.
News channels. Awesome. So I think in Viva, right, when we try to present the information, we try to do present in a format which is which the instructor can comprehend, correct? We try to provide the information in that format. Project presentations, right? A lot of technical presentations that we provide or we give in day-to-day lectures or classes, right? Those are the ones. Even advertisements, right, are a form of an informative content, right? For example, if there is a if there is a company which is releasing a new product in the market, they want to pass information and generate some interest in the audience members who are watching. So this is a part of informative speech. Now in inspirational speech, what do you think we would be discussing about or talking about?
The main intention is to create a change or create an impact.
Wonderful. Great. Great. Great.
Motivate
Yes.
the audience.
Motivate the audience. Correct?
Share some inspiring stories.
Awesome. Okay.
The message should be that powerful so that it is conveyed to a large audience, even beyond the audience present.
Superb.
Make
Great.
sure that the audience latch on to some good values after the speech.
Right. Awesome. Okay. So very similar to how we can structure an informative speech, we can do the similar equation of sorts in the inspirational speech, right? Message presented with emotions. Now this emotion can be of any time, right? It can be more of the motivation factor. It can be of happiness. It can be of sorrow, right? It can be of laughter as well, right? All of these are emotions. And when a message is wrapped with these emotions, we call it an inspirational speech, right? Very broad classification of informative speech and an inspirational speech. Now in inspirational speeches, right? Where do you find such speeches, right? Such maybe you can discuss such situations, right? Where do you find them?
TED Talks.
Awesome, great. Okay.
The YouTubers who come up with emotional speeches.
Right, okay. Okay. So they are the Ankur Warikyu ones, right? Ankur
The
Warikyu.
protests.
There were too
and,
many during JEE.
Historic
Right.
speeches of great leaders.
Wonderful. Okay.
From experienced people who has been
Right.
through a lot.
Right.
Our school
When we
principal keeps giving speeches.
Okay.
Actually, I have one more answer.
Yeah, please go ahead.
It's our parents.
Oh, great. Okay. I think that's a very personal example there. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I think our parents give inspirational speeches every day, right? Great. So I haven't been able to put all of these in our examples. Maybe two of them, which I find which is common, right, for everyone, is team talks, right? Generally within friends, within a group, right? For example, you may be part of other teams as well, such as Festember Pragyan, right? All these teams which are present. There are team conversations which happen here, as well as, for example, you move to your professional life. And the other one are campaign speeches, right? Maybe someone who's standing for elections, right? Where they persuade you, they inspire you, motivate you to vote for them, right? So those are some of the places, right? I think you gave brilliant examples, way better than the ones which are present, right? So those are the two forms, right, of informative speech and inspirational speeches, right? Now, for each of them, where can you find content? Let's begin with informative speeches. What are some of the sources?
Research studies.
Okay.
Newspapers.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. I think Wikipedia saved a lot of lives during COVID, right? What else?
Books.
Well, the books for that particular topic which you need is very helpful.
Great. Okay. Okay. So technical literature, right? Manuals, right? Lab manual. For example, your JE, you would have a lot of other books as well, right? Your DPPs, all of these are places where you can go through articles, online content, Wikipedia, Google, right? Research papers and publications. For inspirational speeches, where can you find content?
Real life examples.
Awesome. Great. Okay.
Autobiographies.
Okay. What else?
Other
Your own experience.
Yes.
Right.
Self-help books.
Self-help books. Okay. Great. Okay. So in inspirational speech, the first key criteria itself is what is the purpose of a speech, right? What is the main message, right? So that should be very clear, and that is the first step towards finding the content itself. What is the purpose for you speaking, right? At a particular place or with a particular person, right? So the main message needs to be clear. It should be a credible source, right? Right. I did not put online content for the same reason, because there are a lot of sources in the online webs, in the online side, which are not that credible, right? Credible content which we can trust upon. Supporting arguments is where you can find through historical incidents, right, which have happened in the past, where you can gain some inspiration. Your personal life, right, which is the most credible story that or the content you can bring, right? And the final thing that should be very clear when we find content is, why should the audience listen to your speech, right? What is the reason for them to listen, right? They, for example, if you're giving a 5 to 7 minutes of speech, you're giving a 1 minute speech, right? Or even a 30-minute talk. Why should the audience listen to you, right? What is a unique selling point? Yeah, that's the USP, right? So that should be pretty clear when you go about finding content. Great. So for all of these, right, either if you go for an informative speech or an inspirational speech, we'll focus more on the inspirational part today. Story is the skeleton of your content, right? Now, why do you think story is the skeleton of your content? What is so special in a story, right? For example, in Tare Zameen Par, you had a beautiful story, right? In The Pursuit of Happiness, you had a beautiful story. What is so special in a story, or the entire part of storytelling?
People can relate.
Awesome, great, wonderful. Yes.
It captivates audience attention.
Awesome, great.
It allows people to visualize it instead of just telling them like facts and figures, which is hard to visualize.
Awesome, great. Fantastic answers. Yes.
So in a story, there's like an element of suspense that they don't know what's going to happen next, and they're anticipating that.
Correct. Right. Okay. Great. Okay. So for example, in Tare Zameen Par, right? Let us take that example itself. Right. The simple message is every child is special. Right. This is something that we hear every day. Right. What makes the entire message so special is the story part of it, right? The story humanizes the entire message, right? Now, what do I mean by humanize, right? It makes it very relevant, right? It makes it something which you can deeply connect with, right? And it shows you the aspect of a real life incident, right? This is something, I think Anishan is someone whom we would have seen in real life, right? There would be a Nikunj, the Amber Khan character, which we would have seen in real life, right? So these characters are very relatable. We can see them in everyday life. It brings the entire picture, right, in front of us. So story is the skeleton of the entire content. Whether you go ahead by giving a speech, or also if you go ahead by going with a movie or going in a written format, right? Story is the most crucial part for your entire content. I think this is something which sums up, right, the entire part of why story is something which is very, very crucial and important. Humans are motivated by stories, right? Statistics, graphs may generate or kindle small triggers, but stories are the one which helps them stay, I would say, in a visualized format, right? Nearly 63% of your audience, after they listen to your speech, would only remember your story, right? So this is statistics, right? 63% of your audience would only remember the story which you have told. They may not even remember your name, right? They may not even remember the title of your speech. They would only remember the story that you have conveyed, right? So humans are truly motivated by stories. Now, if you have told about, okay, story is the best thing, then I totally get it. Now, how do you go about creating such a story, right? There should be a certain framework. So I will be presenting you the framework which I normally follow to content creation, right? How do you build a very comprehensive story which the audience will always remember? So these are the 7 C's of content. The first one is context. What is the setup, right? So this can be at your home, this can be at college, right? For example, in the movie, this was happening in school, right? So where is the context setup, right? So that is the first important aspect towards creating content. The first one. Who are the characters, right? Defining the characters is also something which is very crucial in a content. So first is context. The second is the characters in your entire story, right? The third is the challenge. What was the challenge which Ishan was facing in Tare Zameen Par? He had a dyslexia problem, correct? So define the challenge very well, right? And what was the cure, right? So Nikunj, the teacher, Ramir Khan character came into the person's life, right? And then you present the next C, which is the climax. Then what happened, right? Everyone wants to know. Then, right? Once we we see that, for example, Amir Khan has identified the problem, right? So this kid has this particular challenge, right? He wants to help this kid out. What happens is the climax, right? Everyone's more anticipated. They want to know what's happening next, right? Next is the central message, right? Once the child overcomes this particular challenge, what is the message, right? That the movie wants to provide us, right? And finally, a conclusion. Okay, so these are the 7 C's of content. Context, the characters in your story, the challenge, what do you think is the cure, the climax of the story, the central message or the moral of the story, and finally the conclusion. So these are the 7 C's of content which you can implement if you find any particular message that you would like to present to the audience. Immediately you can use these 7 C's and try to spin a story. Great. So now I would like to show you a video, right? Or a story of a person whose name is Presyan Vasilev, right? Presyan Vasilev. He is the 2013 World Champion of Public Speaking, right? So World Champion of Public Speaking is basically a person who is part of a club, and there are thousands of clubs across the world. So one of the clubs is, for example, Toastmasters NIT Trichy and Colossus Toastmasters. These are clubs. So a person goes from club, then he goes to a next level of area, division, district, and at least 7 to 8 levels to ultimately go to the finale and win the World Champion of Public Speaking. Nearly 500,000 people participate every single year. Okay, so this person was able to win it, right? So I want you to hear the story, okay? And after this, we will begin with our discussion. Okay, just let me know if you can hear the audio as well. Just a second, I'll switch on the audio. Okay, awesome. So just let me know if you can hear. Can you hear it?
No, Nitin, it's not audible. No, it's not audible.
Okay, 1 second. Just give me a second. Okay.
Presyan Vasilev.
Is it audible now?
Yeah, it's audible.
Good luck. I'll mention your name and
No problem.
Presyan Vasilev changed by a tire. Changed by a tire, Presyan Vasilev.
The steering wheel jerked. I tried to keep the car in control. That night in Chicago, a flat tire changed me. I pulled in the nearby gas station, and under bright lights, parked on a slope leading to a busy street. Mr. Contest Chair, Toastmasters and guests, have you ever done something stupid? I broke the first rule of changing a tire. Choose a level spot. Friends, in Chicago, there aren't that many slopes. But that night, I found one. Why do flat tires always happen when you're dressed up? Opened the trunk, excavated the jack, unused for centuries. Rusty piece of metal. I thought, I can handle it. Loosened the nuts, placed the jack down. Half hour to remove the tire. The only support in front, the rusty jack. Back at the trunk, I pulled out the spare tire, shook the entire car. I saw the car going downhill. Bang! The jack collapsed. The car collapsed. My lungs collapsed. An inner voice said, "You are an idiot." Then another voice, "Reach out. Reach out. I can handle it." Lifted the car almost enough. Bang! If at first you don't succeed, almost enough. Bang! The car had moved to a steeper slope. I grasped the gravity of the situation. The people at the bus stop across the street were looking at me. I was giving a demonstration how not to change a tire. Then that voice again, "Reach out. Reach out. Should I involve them?" Of course not. That's not my car. In the gas station, behind the counter, stood a big man with a big smile. Badge read, "Jesse." He said, "My friend, was your car doing push-ups?" I told him I did something stupid. I asked him for help. We got out. Jesse looked at the car and said, "You were right. That's stupid. Let me show you." You never know who you're going to find when you reach out. I found a DJM, Distinguished Jackmaster. Jesse helped me lift the car up. Rusty, foolish hand shook rusty, helping hand. That night, I stopped to change a tire. Instead, the tire changed me. I used to believe that to reach out was weakness. I discovered my weakness was refusing to reach out. When you reach out, you attract ideas that lift you up. When you reach out, you attract solutions that lift you up. When you reach out, you attract friendships that lift you up. Maybe you want a better voice. Reach out to a singer. Maybe you want better writing. Reach out to a writer. Maybe you want better tire changing skills. Reach out to me. I'll give you Jesse's number. Is there something collapsed in your life? Your knowledge may be limited. Your skills may be rusty, but no doubt you'll be changed when you reach out. Mr. Chan.
Awesome. So how did you guys find the speech? Right? Very simple story, right? He stopped to change a tire, right? And that became his international speech, the winning speech, right? He won the world championship after this, right? So let us use this 7C's method itself, right? And try to identify what each C he was trying to target, right? So the first one which we looked at was context. What was the context of the speech, right? Again, I'm waiting for responses from you guys.
Near a
I
gas
think
station at Chicago.
Right? Okay.
I think he
Right.
used his real life experience to beautifully connect to the audience and give them the suggestion of reaching out.
Right. Awesome. So the context here itself is one midnight where he stops to change the tire in Chicago, right? The second is the characters. Who are the characters in this speech?
He and Jesse.
Himself, the car, the Jack, and Jesse.
Right. The Jack, the car, Jesse. Okay. Who else?
And himself.
The people across the street.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. And the tire. Right.
And the tire.
Awesome. Okay. So what was the challenge that we identified here?
He needed to change a car tire, flat car tire.
And what was the cure?
Reach out to someone who is much helpful than himself.
Great. So we are able to understand right now how each of these C's like exactly fit to the story that he has brought in, right? So now this is activity time for you, right? Think about certain life stories in your life, right? And see how you can fit these 7C's and try to make a comprehensive story, right? Think of any incident in your life. Very, very easy to bring out these 7C's, right? Easily plot them, write all the 7C's to your left, write each of the answers to your right, and try to bring a story, right? 10 minutes, right? Your time, I mean, it's okay. Your time starts now. Go ahead. Think of certain stories, right, from your life, which you would like to convey to the audience members. I'll put the 7C's slide as well so that you can refer to it. We'll meet at 7. Also, guys, if any of you feel that you're done, you can please share it with us as well. We'd love to listen. Guys, you can unmute yourself and you can start, I think. Yeah. Or do you guys need more time to think? I'll also ask that as well. Someone can unmute and just say.
Just a minute.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Okay. If anyone needs more time, let us know that as well, right? Okay. Yes, Harsh Gupta. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, Harsh.
Yeah. Hi, Toastmasters, seniors, and all the people over here. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm Harsh, and I'm from Kolkata, and in the chemical department.
Okay.
So it's nice to see not all everybody. Nice to see a few, and last day was really fun. Today is being fun as well. So the story that I'm going to share is derived from a personal experience, and
Awesome.
so I'll give you guys a context.
Mm-hmm.
It's been almost more than 2 years actually. It was back in 2018 November.
Okay.
So I was for the JEE prep. I was in Kota, and From Kolkata to Kota, it's a long distance, you know.
Right.
So it was during Diwali that I came back home. And
Right.
all right, so the story begins from here. So there is a temple over here in my vicinity to my place. It's called the Billa Mandir. It's a temple of Lord Krishna and Radha, and there are some other deities and statues as well. And that temple has been my favorite place since the beginning. I used to go there with my parents, and I always loved that place. Like I have spent, I guess, half of my childhood over there, and actually, that is actually my favorite place.
Okay.
So the thing that I was telling, I was back to Kolkata from Kota during the Diwali holidays. It was just the 10 days holidays, but you know how we love to extend our holidays and say that we didn't find the tickets and all on time. Well, that's a different story. It was one fine day that I went to the temple. It was around, I guess, 4 in the evening. And, you know, I always go there with my parents whenever I can. And when when the parents are not available, I go there alone. I sit there. I enjoy my time over there. It's a very quiet and nice place. It's completely made up of marbles. It's a 3-storied building, and it's actually a huge temple.
Okay.
So I was just walking up the stairs. Yes, please.
So you said the context really well, right? You told who are the characters as well. So what was the challenge there?
All right, I have not yet introduced the characters. I have just set up the context. It was only a background. The characters are yet to come.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So I was just walking up the stairs and getting into the temple, and you know, I was with my mother at that time. It was around 4 p.m. and I found that there were 2 kids over there. There was one girl, and I guess there was one other kid who was her brother. He was, these 2 kids were very young compared to me, and the girl, they were kind of short, and I believe that they were less than 10 years or so. And the girl she almost reached my chest. Her height was still there, and her brother was even shorter than her. Now the girl jumped. You know, at Radha Krishna temples, what happens is you have really high hanging bells at the entrance of the gate.
Okay.
So what I found interesting was the girl was trying to jump, and she almost reached the bell, and you know, she just touched the bell a little, and the bell rang.
Okay.
And so her brother, who was obviously excited to see her, he was also jumping along with her. It was really fun to watch that. And obviously he couldn't reach the bell. So what she did, she was trying to lift him up and somehow trying to make his hand reach to the bell, but that was not being able. She was not being able to do that. It was not possible for such tiny girl to lift a guy. And so I just stepped up from the behind, and I raised that guy. I lifted him up, and he rang the bell. And he was so happy while doing that. And he did it twice, thrice, 4 times, and he just couldn't stop. All the pundits over there and the other people over there, they started to look at me, and a few were smiling, a few seemed disturbed because they were praying, and a few seemed annoyed, but that's okay. I put him down, and then I went forward to the statues and all, and my mother was also there, standing over there. And we prayed, and we went to the other deities. We prayed over there as well. And you know, while going down the stairs, we stayed there for a while. And while going down the stairs, that kid, the kid who I had lifted earlier, he almost reached till my waist. He was not that. I think he was 5 or 6 years old, maybe. So while I was getting down the stairs, and while I was about to wear my shoes, that kid rushed to me, and he just hugged me so tight. And he actually could not hug me properly. He could hug my legs only. And but that was really, really cute, and that was really sweet of him. And I think he was Bihari by religion, custom, and you know. all that he could say, bhaiya, bhaiya, thank you, and stuff. And his mother just reached over there. I think his mother was late, and they were calling out to him that Babu, idhar aao, and all, and they were asking him to come back, and he just held my hand and he took me to his mother, and he told his mother that this bhaiya, he helped me and he lifted me and helped me ring the bell, and this bhaiya is very good. And his mother was smiling and I was smiling, and we talked for a while, and that's all. And then after we were going back, all of the people who were there inside the temple, who were looking at us with all of the agony on the face, they were also smiling a little. I saw the change in expressions.
Great.
So the thing that I learned from here is, one small kind act, one small behavior of kindness, of being helpful, that can go a long way.
Great.
That kid was so influenced by me, and then he said that like bhaiya bahut achhe hain, mere ko bhi bhaiya jaisa hona hai. The kid was so happy that he was motivated by me. The people over there, I identified a few people over there. They had their expressions changed, and from agony it went to happiness. It went to a smile of kindness, and that changed. I think this is something that I learned and that really hit me inside. It really stuck with me for that whole time, and I still remember it. It's been, I think, 3 years, I think more than that, and I still remember the scene very clearly, as if it was just yesterday that it happened.
Awesome.
I believe, that place, I was also that kind of kid once, and it was my father who used to lift me up and help me ring the bells, and I used to do the same thing, ring it once, twice, thrice, 4 times, not until my hands would start paining. And I did the same thing with that kid, and that thing, this small act of kindness and these small actions, I think this is how the kids start trusting, and this is how the kids are made happy, and this is what turns people into being helpful without thinking so much. I believe all of this has nothing to do with thinking or remembering or something, but it's just one of those memories that stays with you, and when you think about it, you feel happy, and there is an automatic smile on your face, because you know that you did good and that you make people around you yourself happy. The environment over there, it has such positive vibes, and I think these kind of experiences help me to understand why that place is so positive and why that whole energy is considered to be holy. It's not about the deities, or it's not about that place being a temple. It's about the energies and the vibrations you get from that place.
Great. Thank you, Harsh. I think you just presented as an international speech itself, right? You had a proper opening, you gave a setup, you told the story, right? And you also told what the end message you wanted to provide as well. Awesome. So for the constraint of time, we'll have it stop with Harsh for now, but we would love to listen to the rest of your stories after Hanan teaches you or makes you understand, right? How do you go about writing the content, right? So once you have all this ideas set, how do you go about writing the content, right? So Hanan, you can proceed with your presentation. Thank you so much, guys. We'll also have the Q&A at the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nitin, for that session. Hi, guys. I want you guys to turn on your cameras, please. Everyone ignored me at the start of the session. I'm not going to stand for that again. Yeah. Nice. Hi, Vibha. Hi, Sarthik. You guys are already on the screen, so hi. Thank you. Pranav. Okay. More, please. Thank you. Good. Great. See, guys, before we start this, okay, I want you guys to just think of one motivational quote that you relate to the most. Like, this could have kept you going throughout many different stages of your life, okay? And you would have changed your wallpaper to this or written it on a note on the mirror, something of that sort. So anyone wants to volunteer and tell me what yours is, just to get you guys started? Anyone? off the top of your head.
Can I go?
Yeah, Harsh, go on.
Yeah, so it's a quote. It's actually Lionel Messi's quote, and he told after winning a cup that it took me 17 years to become an overnight success.
Nice.
I think that has kept me going the whole time.
Nice. Okay, so that is definitely one quote that tells you about how much hard work it takes to finally achieve your goals. Nice one. And okay, Pragati said you're the one who can change yourself. That is also really impactful. And one more, guys. Like anyone else?
Okay, I have one.
Yeah,
Yeah, Hari, go on.
Yeah, I came across this quote. I'm not sure exactly who said this, but it goes like the things which hurt, the things which hurt instruct. As in, what it means is the obstacles that come along our way, they actually make us stronger and show us a path towards where we want to lead.
Nice. Things that hurt instruct. So I think like you can kind of extend that to life starts out of your comfort zone as well, because because like once you start stepping out of that, that's when you start learning and improving. Now these are amazing quotes, and I know like a lot of you want to say yours as well. Like I saw Sarthik, but wait, hold on for now, and think about why these are your favorite quotes. Okay, like there might be certain incidents in your life as to when you realize that this is important, and hold on to that thought. We'll come back to it later. Now what I want to do is first I'll just tell you how to write your speech. Okay, I'll give you an outline of how to write your speech now that Nitin has told you how to come up with the ideas for a speech. And then what we'll do is we'll judge a world championship speech. Okay, I'm going to dissect it from zero, and I'm going to make you see what elements are there standing out in that speech from the start to the finish. And then we'll discuss that, because that is like the best way to actually see how to write a script. Okay, in my opinion. So let's actually jump into it. 1 second. Can you guys see my screen? Can someone tell me unmute and say?
Yeah, we can see.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's visible.
Nice, thank you. Now, the first thing about speech structure. Like it'll be nice if you guys have a paper and pen at your side. Like just note down these things, okay? And I'm going to ask you what you noticed in the speech that I'm going to show you after this. So in an outline of a speech, always you're going to have these three elements no matter what. You will have an opening, you will have a body, and you'll have a conclusion. Like so OBC for short, if you want to remember it in short. And in the opening, you always have an attention hook. Attention hook is something that grabs the attention of your audience in the first 30 seconds of your speech, in the first 90 seconds, like Nitin was saying during his session. And then you greet your audience, then you transition to the body. Okay? So these are the three things in the opening. Now in the body, there are a few main points. You have a few elements in the speech that make it interesting. You relay your message to the audience, and finally, after everything, you conclude with a summary. You have a message, and in many speeches, you'll see that the conclusion will tie back to the introduction as well. So these are the different elements in an outline of a speech. And again, there are a few things that you see in the body of any speech. Okay, you'll see audience engagement. Like one issue with any speech nowadays, or any even class, like you all have been attending online classes. I know you had classes today also. So you keep drifting off, okay? Maybe for 2 minutes you hear the good morning from sir, and then nobody knows where you are after that. You're probably in some other city. So the thing is, whenever you speak, you have to understand that there are a few elements in the speech that you have to keep engaging the audience with. Reel them back into your speech when you feel like you're losing them. Now, recurring lines are something that you use when you have a message to convey. If you say one line again and again with different modifications, that is going to help you express your message very clearly. And there are a few things called transitional statements, which help you connect different parts of your speech or different messages in your speech clearly. Now, are you guys following along so far? Is that fine?
Yeah.
Good. Good. All right. So now let's actually get to the interesting part, the speech dissection. Now Nitin showed you the speech of Toastmaster Prasyan Vasilev. Now what we will be seeing is a 2014 World Championship winning speech, and this is of Toastmaster Dhananjaya Hettiarachchi, and most of us would have seen the speech already, but let's see it again. And what I want you to do is just in your pen and paper right now, whatever elements you notice in the speech, yeah, note it down and we'll discuss it later, right? For now, just like pay attention to the speech and whatever elements you notice, just note it down on the side as you listen. So let's go.
Dhananjaya Hettiarachchi.
You guys can hear, yeah? Okay, cool.
Yes, yes.
I see something. I see something. Dhananjaya Hettiarachchi.
You and I are not very different from this flower. Just like this flower is unique, you are unique. All of us has something special that makes us as beautiful. Do you know what makes you special? Now the answer to that can be a little difficult to find, because sometimes life has a cruel way of picking out your petals, breaking you in two, and throwing you into the trash. And when you're broken, it's very difficult to feel special. Mr. Contest Chair, my fellow flowers, I can remember the first time I broke. I was 17 years old. I had already flunked high school and managed to get myself arrested. Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops, but there was one person I was very afraid of, and that was my mama. Raise your hand if you have an emotional mother. Let me see. Put them all together, you get mama. I can hear her scream outside the police station. Even the cops were afraid. She came up to me, held the iron bars, looked into my eyes, and I saw a tear coming down her face. Now, I've seen my mama cry before, but mothers cry 3 types of tears. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother cry tears of shame, that's a life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, "Son, I want you to be a better man." That night, when I drove home, my dad was waiting for me at home. Now, my dad is a cool dad. Raise your hand if you have a cool dad. Put them all together, you get my dad. My dad came up to me and said, "Son, it's okay. You flunked your exams. You already got arrested. That's fine. You get that from your mother's side. I want you to start working immediately." And I said, "Okay." So my dad took me to meet one of his friends called Sam. Now, Sam was an accountant who had an accounting firm and had generously decided to make me his personal assistant. And there he was. He looked like a teddy bear. But this man was special. I looked at him, and he looked at me. And then he said the most amazing thing. He said, "Son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you decide to work with me, I can help you find that something." And I was like, "Whoa, that's the first time in my whole life somebody has ever told they see something in me." And I started working for Sam. And every day after work, he used to tell me stories about the world, about history, about culture, about philosophy, and it was much more interesting than what I learned in school. And I discovered I can dream. And I started dreaming, ladies and gentlemen. After 1 year, I went back into high school, completed my exams, and went into college. After successfully completing college, I found a great girl, but not a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Have you ever had that problem? And when you're lost, it's difficult to feel special. So I went back to my cool dad. And I said, Dad, I feel lost. He said, you are like your mother. So my dad introduced me to this strange club that had a strange name, with strange people talking. On the first meeting, they told me to do something called a table topic. I aced it. But while I was speaking, I see a strange man seated in the back row. Humble, simple. The unfailing quality of kindness in his eyes. As soon as I finished, he walked up to me, looked me dead straight in the eye, and said, son, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. If you come here twice a month, maybe we can find that something. And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered I could speak, and I love speaking. And that led me to become a teacher. I know what it's like to not have enough money in your bank account. I know what it's like to worry when the bills start coming in. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up my beautiful wife and I ask her, honey, why did you marry me? She says, I saw something in you. But I still don't know what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm a dreamer, I'm a speaker, and I learned the unfailing quality of unconditional love from my wife. I was broken, and I've been broken, lost, and broke many times in my life. But the people in my life were able to reach into the trash can and make me whole again. If it was up to me, I would have never been able to do that. And this is why if you have great people in your life, no matter how broke, how lost, or how broken you become, they can piece you back together. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at you, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. Over to you.
Hanan, you're on mute.
Can you unmute?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know, like, you guys are seeing yourself on my screen, and it might look weird, but bear with me for a moment. We'll switch back to the presentation. Okay. So, how did you like that speech?
I liked it better than the 2013 champions were.
Okay. Okay. And what exactly do you think? Okay, we'll go step by step. Okay. How did he open the speech?
He used a visual aid of the rose and the trash can.
Yes, and what exactly was special about the content that he used in the opening?
See, he started from everyone is unique, and he ended that by showing faith in someone, you can change their whole life.
Yes, but what was he doing with the rose? He said something about the rose.
Yeah, he said that everyone is unique, but through their life, they are torn apart piece by piece and thrown into a trash can.
Yes. So what he said, he started with a metaphor, and now that drives everyone's attention to the speech. Yeah? He just started taking a rose, and he said, "You and I are like this flower," and that immediately piques interest. because you're like, how is that possible? Anyone, like a metaphor in general always piques interest because you make these absurd connections between two things. And when you explain that, people are interested to know why you said that in the first place. So that was why his opening was good. Okay, now what about his greeting when he said, good evening? How did he say that?
He says first he greets the person in the chair as contestant chair, and then he says, my fellow flowers.
Exactly. Yes, yes. So that is customized. Okay, everyone says good evening, and you think like how much can you actually personalize a greeting like that? But there are ways to do that as well. So in his opening, every single thing was personalized to his speech. That is one thing that you can notice. Now, do you know how he transitioned into the body? So clearly this was the opening. His opening was people are flowers. Okay, and just like flowers can be broken away, petal by petal, people can be broken as well. Then he started talking about his life, but what was the transition exactly?
He started
When he
by
was
where he was
17.
What point he was the most broken.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So what he did was, I remember the first time I broke. And that was a very smooth transition because he showed himself breaking that flower into pieces, and then he smoothly transitioned into his body. And in his body, like, what were the main points in his body? Like, there were 3 main phases of his life that he spoke about. What were those?
See, the first one was when he was 17 and he had flunked the school. He was arrested. So when he was arrested, his mom showed up to the jail to speak him up, to cheer him up.
Okay. So
So
that was the first. Good
yeah.
one, sir. And
Actually, I want to say one thing more. That in
go on.
that one, in that sequence, he said 2 lines, and those 2 lines, they were the best lines of his whole sequence. So the first one was the tears of a mother, which are tears of joy, sorrow, or shame. And the second one was unfailing quality of kindness or unconditional love in the eyes.
Yes. So those were 2 parts. Yeah. Now, when okay, that is one special element of his speech. But then when you're talking about the phases of his speech, the first phase is obviously, like you just said, the part where he's broken, like he failed school, he was arrested. That was the first phase. And the second phase was when he got past that, he finished college, and then he had no job. That was the second problem that he was facing. And when he overcame that, finally he got a job as a teacher and all of that. And sometimes he just can't believe that entire thing. So he asked his wife, right? Like, it's a sort of question, like, is this all really happening? Or you can see it as a sort of fulfillment, like his life has been complete, like he now has all of the things that he has hoped for, and his wife can be a representation of that. So these are the 3 different phases. Now what I want to ask you is, what is the transition that he used between these phases? One sentence to connect all of these.
I saw something in you, but
He
I still don't
said,
know what.
I saw something.
Yeah,
He used the
everyone in his
connection
life
of
said
other
that.
people you.
Yeah, exactly the same thing.
Yes.
I see something in
I
you, but
see
I
something
don't know
in you,
what
but
it
I
is.
don't know what it is.
Exactly. So now that's what I meant by the recurring line thing, right? This one line is so powerful throughout that entire speech because he used it as transitions, he used it as a message, and that is how he was able to smoothly, like, you remember each part of the speech when he said it, right? And you can recollect at what part it was said, who said it, and all of that. So it helps you remember the speech when you look back at it, because it's very simple. It's just one line and it gets repeated in different contexts, right? And what was his message in the end? One message that he said in the conclusion.
That one person in your life can reach the trash can and make you whole again.
Yes, but that wasn't exactly a message, like one line that he had said. Anyone? Okay, so that is like paraphrase to the message. Was someone trying to speak? Cool. Okay. So it was kind of paraphrase, like it is what you said, Sarthak. It is, if you have great people in your life, no matter how broke, how lost, or how broken you become, they can make you whole again. That was the message during the speech. And yeah, that is it, Pragati. Like, you have someone who makes you, like, he basically talked about having the right people in your life to help you with all of the points that you get and feel broken. So the one last thing that I have to mention is, I think Sarthak mentioned this before, he tied back the conclusion to the opening. He brought back the roast metaphor, right? So what we've essentially done is that we've dissected that entire speech and we know the outline of that speech right now. So it wasn't very complex. Now, if you look at it, it can easily be broken down into this outline. Okay? The introduction, the body, and the conclusion have 3 points, just 3 points. And what he did was he fleshed out those 3 points throughout the speech, and that's how you see the final script as it is. So you have these 3 points in the intro that I've already discussed. The body, there's a problem, there's a solution. Each time he transitioned through these problems and solutions, there was someone telling him, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. The line is the same, the context is different. So these are a few things that you can take away from the speech. And what you've done right now is you've learned how to write an outline for a speech. Now you can use this whenever you write your own speeches. It's just that you can sit down and write an outline for your speech. Okay? This is the first step to writing any script. Now, I just want to deep dive into these 3 parts, okay? Introduction, body, and conclusion. Now, this is where I am going to start asking you about the stories related to your codes, okay? So just keep those in mind. And let's go to how you start off. Now, guys, what exactly do you think would hold your attention the most in the beginning of a speech, according to you?
See, not in the beginning of the speech, but both of the winners used humor in their speech to attract the audience.
Definitely.
And that attracts me the most. That if you have even if you have a very deep message and your story is extremely emotional, like this guy 2014 winner, so he was telling the story of when he went to jail and came back, and that too when he was 17, but still he used humor to attract the audience. So that's what inspired me the most in this speech.
Okay. So humor, in fact, okay, you said not just in the beginning of the speech, throughout your speech you can have humorous elements.
Yeah,
Okay.
not even humor, just cheering up the audience from the low point of the speech.
Definitely. And that is one. Now, can I have someone else tell me about anything else that you like about intros? Like, what exactly would draw your attention the most?
Like really high energy at the start.
Really high energy at the start. And how would you do that? Like, what would you say when you have that high energy?
Yeah, a customized greeting would be a great way to start off with, like, yeah.
Okay. Greetings are fine.
What I really like
go on.
it is that like he asks a question in the beginning, like, do you guys have a cool dad? Like, that's something like everyone wants to talk about, and he includes everybody in his story. That's what I like.
Yeah, so directing a question towards the audience. Like in this speech, a question wasn't used at the beginning of the speech, but using a question can definitely be a great way to start your speech. Anything else?
Just involving your audience, Sam. Comparing the roast to the audience was what he used. So just involving your audience in any way.
Yes, audience engagement. Great. Now, you guys have covered a lot of things. See,
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, you go on.
See, another thing I liked is he started off with a sequence and then he introduced the audience. So it was not like a regular speech in which you introduce the audience first and then increase your speech with your level. He introduced the speech with a very nice sequence and then he subtly introduced the audience to the speech.
Yes, that is a very good point. Now, in Toastmasters speeches, mostly what we do is we don't greet the audience straight off the bat. Like, we don't start any speech saying, good evening, fellow Toastmasters, or good evening, audience. What we do is we build up to this greeting because we know that the first 30 to 90 seconds is when you have the attention of the audience the most. So if you start off with good evening, you're losing on a lot of opportunities to hold your audience in there. So what you can do is use these things that I like to call attention hooks. Okay. So once you get the audience hooked in those first 90 seconds, then you can go with your greeting as well. So there are different ways to do this. Like you guys have told me a lot yourself, and you'll keep coming up with more. That's why I have this continuation over there. Like I can't contain it in one slide, but a few of them are storytelling, metaphors, metaphors like the one he just used, people are flowers. Storytelling is when you start off by narrating a story. You can state your point. Like if you have a very unique point to make, no, you can just start off by stating that one point. And humor is one way to do it. You can ask a question to the audience. Now, just to give you examples of what I mean by all of these attention hooks, I have a few examples here, okay? This is something that Toastmaster Rick Ved from my club used for his humorous speech, which went on to win the club and area level contests, okay? So he said, exams are just like girlfriends. Now, listen to that entire statement, right? Like the first time you hear the statement, you're like, what does he mean? How is that even possible? Now that he has your attention, he goes on to say, both of them have too many questions to ask. Both of them are super difficult to understand. There is too much competition for both, and the result of both in my life is failure. So that is how he opened his speech, and that is how he gained attention in his speech. And you and I are not very different from this flower is the metaphor you just heard. To start off with a story is like Nitin was saying, people love stories. Okay, so if you start off with a story, then immediately you can make sure that if you write it interestingly enough, people will want to know what happened later on in the story. So one example is, I was a student returning from a study abroad course in Cairo. Shortly after takeoff, 5 men carrying guns leapt up from their seats and began shouting at the passengers, our plane was being hijacked. So this is a very interesting setup. Okay, after this you can't not listen to a speech. And for humor, if you look at Steve Jobs' speech during the Stanford commencement ceremony in 2005, he has something. He starts saying, "I'm honored to be with you at the commencement from one of the finest universities in the world. And truth be told, I never graduated from college, and this is the closest I've ever gotten to a graduation." So a lot of people definitely use humor throughout their speeches because it makes the person who's speaking instantly likable to the audience and they want to listen to them. Yeah. And for a question, you can just ask any weird question that makes the audience think. What if I tell you that you don't actually exist? What if in this very moment I tell you that all of us are living in a simulation, that you and I are figments of imagination? So these are just all up to you. As attention grabbing as possible as you can make your intro, that would be the best, right? That's what I wanted to convey through this entire one segment. Okay, now before we move on, I just want you guys to tell me that story I asked you to save for later. Okay? And I want you to do it in 30 seconds, like you're starting a speech and you're trying to talk to me about yourself. Just 30 seconds. I just want you to say like 30 seconds of content. And is anybody ready to do that? Like you can take, say, a minute to think about it and then you can start. Does anyone want to try?
Cool, I'll do it.
Okay, Vibha. Sure. You can take a minute. And by the way, guys, I know we said we'd end the session by 7:30, but give me like 10 extra minutes and we'll wind up soon. Okay.
Okay, can I just like go, like I'm not writing anything down, I'm just like going with the flow.
Go.
All right.
Yes, go on.
Okay. What if I told you you're an expert in a certain subject and you're being put to the test and you're at the peak of the point where you need to prove yourself, and that's the point where everything decides to go wrong? This is something that happened to me and something that sticks with me till today. No matter how hard I work on myself, it's something that I'll always think about and cringe over. The thing is, I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer, and when I was 14 years old, I was called to do a performance on a really huge platform, on a national platform, and there were people watching me. There was my family watching me, and at this age, like, I was good. I knew I was good, and everyone knew I was good. My teacher knew I was good, and the reason I was dancing there is because I had won the competition. So I was dancing there at the prize distribution ceremony, my prize distribution ceremony, and on that stage, I messed up. Like, I forgot a step or two, and I'm sure like it won't be too visible to like a layman watching the show, but I messed up on like live TV, and I'll always know that I made that mistake. So I was there on stage, I was doing everything, and I blanked. There's no reason to it. There's no logical reason as to why I messed up. I practiced everything, like all my costumes, everything was fine, but I messed up, and I stood there in that moment. There was like a brief split second. I stood there and I didn't know what step to do. And it, like, the thought of it still haunts me till today, even though it's not very visible to public.
Vibha, you have muted yourself.
I'm sorry. Yeah. No. When something you're really good at is put to the test, and you find out that you aren't as good as you thought you were, that really sticks with you. And I think that's the time someone told me, it's okay. It's the decision you made in like a split second in that moment that decides whether you're good or not good. Because you might have prepared a lot, but the real test is doing something good when you're unprepared. So I think that's when I learned that like being spontaneous and being just like the mirth about things is more important than being a perfectionist. Yeah, that was my takeaway.
Okay. I was expecting only 30 seconds of content because I gave you just 1 minute, but that was really good. Okay. So you had, the way I look at it, you had a good opening because you started off with a question and then you ended it, like you built up to a situation where you said, I messed up on stage. Where like that was the point where we were all intrigued, you know, what happened next? How did that affect you and all that? So you had all of the elements of a good speech. Now, what I want you to notice is that you've essentially created an entire speech, and this would be your first draft, right? Now you can start like perfecting stuff after you've written this first draft, and if you follow a certain style or if you follow a certain technique, and that is what I'll be covering in the next 2 slides. So. Body, what do you want to tell the audience? Now, Nitin has already asked you, like he's talked about the 7 C's, yeah? And you know like what your story is, what the message that you want to convey to the audience is and all that. Now is the time to actually put it into words, okay? So what you have to do is basically create an outline. And there are a lot of ways to do this. So in that sheet that you might have written your 7 C's, I need you to like just circle a few points here and there that seem the most important to you and see if you can bring it down to a 3-point skeleton. And most speeches can be actually brought down to just 3 points as well, 3 main points, which you then flesh out to make a story or an entire speech in the end. Or if your speech is not something of that sort, but if it is something informational, I think someone said said earlier in the session as well, informational speeches usually are the sort of speech that you present a problem in the beginning and then you solve that problem. So that can be a structure as well. What is your problem? What is the solution to that problem? And if you're narrating a story to the audience, then you can just look at the C, like the character C of the 7 C's, and put that in your setup, which will be in the beginning. Then you build up to the climax of the story. You have one part of the story just for the climax part and what happens after the climax of the story. So just have a very rough outline of your speech in this manner. And then once you have these points that you want to convey through your speech, what you can do is find the transitions through that. Like you can have a statement that recurs. If there is a message that you want to convey, you can shorten it to 1 sentence, right? Like, for example, I see something in you is the sentence that Toastmasters NIT used. And you can have that statement recur throughout these points. Like, you can use that one statement to connect these different points. Or if you're talking about yourself, for example, you can just have a chronological progress, like from your birth, I was born in this place, and then at the age of 7, I actually started developing a passion for this, and at the age of 14, I started trying out different classes for this, etc., etc. So there is a chronological transition that you can do between your points if it is something like a story. And if it is an informational session, then you can do a logical sequence. Like you can say, first, I need to define the terms that are relating this information that I want to convey. Then I want to tell you what this topic that I'm talking about actually is. And then what is the conclusion? Why am I telling you this whole thing? What are the entire points that I've covered? Right. So that's a logical sequence, and that you don't really need to think much about those kind of speeches because they're informational, and you generally have an already set out sequence for such speeches without having to think much. Or what you can do is you can have an overarching theme as connector. Like, for example, if you're speaking about yourself, you are the overarching theme. So whatever happens, you are the common factor in it. And essentially, you will find your way to connect the main points that you want to convey as parts of your life. Now, all of this sounds very theoretical, but I think once you actually start noting down points and once you actually start trying to finesse that speech out, then you'll understand how difficult it is to actually transition between statements and so on. So I think the best thing to do is just practice, all right? Whatever speech you want to try out, just write a few points down, condense the points as much as possible, then start trying to transition between these points. Right. And then when you write the conclusion, okay, I've been talking for too long. What do you think we should include in the conclusion of any speech? Guys.
I think you need to tie up all the points of your speech, and like if you want to end humorously, you can do a callback or just reinforce what you're trying to say.
Yes.
And
definitely.
where you started.
Yeah. And where you started. That is one way. And definitely, like for different speeches, you'd have different kinds of conclusions. But one thing that is mostly common in most speeches that you see would be the fact that they always summarize the contents of their speech in one line in the conclusion. Like Dhananjay, for example, what he did was he talked about how his whole life had transitioned throughout that one speech. He learned how to dream. He found a job, like he found unconditional love, right? So in just one sentence, he summarized his entire speech up until that point. So that is one thing you can do in the conclusion. And if you want, you can tie back to your introduction, or you can tie back to some point in your speech. You can call back to it, like someone was saying. And you can state your message clearly once for the audience to take away. Now, there are some speeches which don't really have like a specific message to convey, but an advice that I would give is that always, no matter what speech you deliver, make sure that you state your message clearly, because that is, I think, one of the best parts of listening to a speech, when you have something to take away from that speech. So that is the 3 things that you should include in the conclusion. Now, do you think this is done? Like, you've written your draft. So do you think that that's the end of speech writing?
No.
What do you think would follow then?
I think editing it more, refining it.
Yes, definitely. So like when you write the first draft, no matter how good of a writer you are, you'll definitely have things that you'll want to change when you go back. Especially if you're trying to include humor or some elements of that sort, you need to try it out first. You need to get second opinions. You need to get different perspectives, and you need to make sure your speech is as refined as possible. Right. If something doesn't tie into your theme, then you need to cut out that part of the speech. Like even if it is an amazing bit in the speech, okay, it's an amazingly funny story, but if it doesn't tie into your entire central theme, cut it out. You have to be as brutal as possible, and you have to engage as much as possible. Wherever there is an option to pull your audience back into your speech using humor, you can use questions to the audience, anything of that sort. You need to engage as much as possible wherever possible in your draft. You need to check your references if it is an informational session to make sure that nothing has gone wrong. You need to smoothen your transitions, and you need to get someone else to proofread if possible. Now, if you're wondering whether you can get some help from Toastmasters as such for this post-draft review, there is an opportunity. So we'll be having something called a showcase, okay, in a few days when you get to present your speeches over there, and you'll get to learn more about the showcase in a bit. But you'll get an opportunity to actually present your speech over there, and in that case, we'll actually have Toastmasters help you out with your drafts and reviews. So if you want to get to know more about the draft review process as such, you can just sign up for that and reach out to us that you want to participate in that. Okay. So that was it for my session. I hope you guys had something useful to take away from this today. And I hope Nitin and I helped you and cleared a little bit about what speech content writing is all about. And we'll be open for questions now if you guys have any to ask us. There's really no questions. I want to repeat something one of my professors says right now, which is if you don't ask any doubts, you probably didn't understand anything. So don't do that to us. Go on.
So how long does the speech writing process generally take for professional public speakers and all of that?
Nitin, do you want to answer that?
Okay. So it depends upon person to person, right? It's very subjective. So once, for example, see, it hardly takes, for example, in this setup itself, right? It took you 5 to 6 minutes to get through with a story, right? So it's as fast as that. I think the only time where consuming part is what Hanan just said, right? Writing the speech, right? It again depends upon how many times you want to review, go through it, right? Again, subjective to person, right? You can get done with the speech within 2 to 3 reviews itself, or you can be more as brutal as possible, right? And you can go about and check how each word is fighting for its existence on the page, right? You can go and check that, right? So it totally depends upon you. So once you are at the idea, I think hardly, because we have nearly in a week, you'd be okay with the draft. It is specific to me, but maybe it differs. Maybe you can finish it off in 2-3 days itself, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Any more questions, please?
So I have always faced the problem that even if I write something good, I always face the problem of having confidence to deliver it.
Mm-hmm. Now, so we've helped you with the speech writing part. If you want to get tips on delivery as such, you'll have a session tomorrow morning for that. But otherwise, I think the best way to do it is just to put yourself, I don't remember whose quote it was, I'm so sorry, but put yourself outside that comfort zone. Okay, like you have to walk on stage, and then it was Hari's, yeah, was that right? Good. Okay, so you have to walk on stage and you have to deliver that speech for you to actually start feeling confident. Like all of us in Toastmasters, not all, probably there are a few who are just natural born geniuses, but many of us had this fear and we actually got over it once we started delivering speeches. It will be there for your first speech, but you'll get through it. Yeah.
So that is also the best part of Toastmasters, right? Your first speech is about yourself, right? So you don't have, mostly about telling your own story, you have a lot of credibility. Pull upon. So yeah. Any more questions, guys?
It is cool if you guys think of something later also, you can ask us, yeah.
You can also put it in the feedback form as well. If there are any
Yeah,
questions, be happy to answer it as well. Also, guys, I think as a suggestion from both of us would be whatever we have given, right, in terms of idea generation, right, and how do you go about writing, try to utilize that. So try to have a basic form of it, so that tomorrow when you attend the delivery workshop, right, how to deliver the speech, you'd be able to go through and understand, right, on how each of the words that you've written, right, how well it can be delivered, what kind of emotion you need to bring in, right, when the presenter would be presenting the entire workshop tomorrow. So it's better to do some homework, right, on this part, so that tomorrow you can have the best possible output from the workshop, right? So I think specifically that would be it as a suggestion from our side, right? Feel free to use them feasible.
Alright, guys. If there are no more questions, I think we can hand it back to the workshop chairs. Toastmaster Vignesh, are you?
Thank you so much, guys. I wanted to thank from both of us. Thank you so much for listening so patiently, right? I don't think we had that much of patience in our first years, right, to listen through this entire 2-hour session, right? Hats off to you guys. It really shows how much thirsty you are for learning, right? The thirst for learning is always there. So hats off to you guys. All the very, very best for your first year and for all the other activities that you're part of. Over to you from our side, Vignesh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
That was a great session, Toastmaster Hanan and Toastmaster Nitin. Hope you guys had a good and fun learning experience in this workshop. So yeah, I have put the feedback form in the WhatsApp group. Please do fill it after the meet. And the tomorrow's session will be a morning session, and the timings will be from 10:30 to 12. So I'll just put in a reminder half an hour before the meet in the WhatsApp group as well. The session will be about how to deliver a speech and how to deliver feedback for the speech. So yes, that has been the session so far. Thank you for attending, and see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, you guys. I had a great time.
Thank you.
So all these switching.
Was there a question from anyone?
Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. I learned a lot.
Great.
We're really happy you could learn a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for attending, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
As well.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for this amazing session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you get the recording of the session?
Yes, it is present. Just a second. Yep.